to, as we're coming into the beach, we want to now turn to more of a yellow ochre and a bit of burnt sienna for sand. Again, just as I'm coming over, I'm going around the boats. So as I'm coming down, I'm adding in colour as I'm coming down. While the wash is still wet, I'm going back to the palette and adding in a stronger colour. Might even add in a bit of blue as well. See what that does. Because the beach is never a uniform colour. There we go. And as that wash is coming down, I'm just going to mop up the bottom so it doesn't seep back. So using the mop brush again, just going along the bottom, right across, still coming down at this angle. And just wipe off in a sponge level. So while that is still damp, just forgot a little bit here. Sometimes it's difficult to know when to stop doing this mucking about. That will do. So we'll try and get so before our break, we'll try and get the background wash done and the background hills. So use as big a brush as you can. Plenty of, the way I do it is plenty of paint in the brush, and then just starting at the top, almost letting the gravity do the work. As you're coming down, you're adding in more colour, more paint, and then as it's still moist, you're then adding in a bit more again, just to introduce, as in the beach, introduce a little bit more interest in different colours. It's where also you could do a little bit of splattering when it's just going between the sort of moist stage and the damp stage. So if you're looking against a light you lose that glistening of the paper, and then that's still a little bit too damp actually. But you could do a bit of splattering for a beach scene, and that introduces some nice effects. I would splatter with a synthetic brush and clear water, and then do some controlled splattering of the water onto the beach. It just introduces a little sort of tiny little sort of cauliflowers and lighter patches. Too much. So, I'm using the same big mop brush again, and so these are far heels, so they're going to be bluish in colour, but notice that there are some little areas where there's some buildings in the background. You can just about make them out. So we could just, as we come down the hill, we could just leave out little areas to indicate, to give the impression of some buildings there and maybe some boats moored up on the shoreline. So, and go back to my palette mixer, a bluey grey, not too strong, and that's about right. And then go over, as we did really with the wash, we've got quite a lot of paint on the brush, and actually goes up from left to right. And then as I go back to the mixing well, I'll add in a bit more colour. Shoreline, back to the mixing well, add a bit more colour. I'm using a bluey grey here, so it's a blue with burnt sienna. If you've got any sort of light brown, reddy brown, that will do. And then the shoreline is actually quite a bit darker, so again go back, slightly thicker in consistency, darker as we come down to the base.
of tissue just at the top of the mount, is just lightly lift off some, not too much, lift off some of the paint while it's still moist. Just while I'm here, I'm going to draw in that boat. So, that's me done on the background hills. So what we're going to do now is that left-hand building and the road and the harbour, the retaining wall there, down to the tops of the figures that I've got and the boats. Right, so I might start off with a bit of a roof, first of all, even though it's not showing too much in the picture, which would be a sort of light red. So I'm just, excuse me, let's have a chili in there. And then, now the wall, which going to be, so I'm starting off on that roof line. It doesn't matter that the red is now bleeding into it. Too precise with the edge of the building.
What colour are you doing the building?
I've got a mixture of yellow ochre and a blue. Who asked that question? Okay. Yeah. Yellow ochre and a blue. I might try and go a bit darker actually, because I'm looking, as I'm coming down, I'm looking at compared to those background hills, and it does need to be maybe just a little bit darker. Let's see how we get on. So, as I did with the beach, I am adding in colours as I'm going across. Back over to the right hand side, pick up a bit more yellow ochre. Check for any runs. And now I'm actually mixing the colour on the paper, which is another thing you can try, rather than mixing it on your palette. Just pick up a bit of pigment, put it on the paper and sort of swish it around. So as I said, I'm going to go a little bit bluer over to the left-hand side there. And we could try, we'll do a bit more splattering when this is the right dryness, level of dryness. So let's come back over to the left-hand side. Let's go a little bit darker. So I'm now going to do, I'm now going to use a little bit at the base of the building, a little bit of neutral tint, or you could have Payne's grey. You could even use a bit of black if you don't have either of those. But maybe mix with something else so it's not too strong at the base there. And